Over the last couple of weeks, I've been playing and ranking every single character in My Hero 1's Justice 2 from the strongest all the way down to the weakest. This tier list was made with the characters as they were at launch, though I have heard that the Hawks patch will be hitting soon, maybe even this week, so I'll make sure to update this tier list if it does happen. Still, this tier list will be our starting point if we ever do update it, so it's very much worth knowing where the characters were before any nerfs or buffs happened. Now, this game features a total of 41 playable characters, and every single one of them plays in a unique way, and obviously, I don't know all of them. So I enlisted the help of a few friends to put this tier list together. I talked to YouTubers Draco Wolf and Papa Berto, links to their YouTube channels in the description down below, and also a few of this game's top players like Sharp, Zaydsultan, Mario, Tomakii, and Hoodie. But most of the help actually came from a lab monster called Smoke. All of these are folks that you can find on our Discord channel. This is where we hold the biggest My Hero tournaments in the world with prize pools and everything. If you believe you're the best My Hero player, this is where you prove it, not in the ranked leaderboards, because those don't matter. That said, this is my tier list. Whenever I disagreed with someone's opinion and I thought I had some good reasons to disagree with them, my opinion prevailed. But still, for the most part, this tier list was pretty consensual. And these folks definitely helped me out with a lot of characters that I just didn't know super well. So without further ado, the tier list is going from the S ranks all the way down to the D ranks. This game isn't so unbalanced that we need to go below that. We don't need an E and F tiers. No character is that bad in this game. So the bottom tiers, the worst characters in this game, are the guys in the D tier. A couple of things now that we're showing the bottom tiers. First of all the characters have been ordered within their own tiers. So Kirishima, being the first character in D tier, means he's the strongest D tier in my opinion. And that would make Muscular the worst character in the game. Playing a bottom tier doesn't mean you're trash or anything. It's not a personal insult. I know how the comments go in these tier list videos. In fact, if you're good with a bottom tier, it just proves how good of a player you are. Every character in this game can be reliable. You just have to put in a lot of work with these bottom tiers. I have no doubt that Mario, for instance, is gonna get a top 3 placement next tournament with Kirishima. And just last week, I played a godlike Tsuyu that I still have no idea how to beat. But those players aren't good because of their character, they're good in spite of them. And that's why they're at the bottom. Generally speaking, a good character in My Hero has to have the following. They have to have good damage, which none of these guys have. They all have average damage. Good pressure for when your opponent blocks your attacks. Can you keep them blocking until their guard breaks? Or do you have some good mix-up gimmicks? I would also say none of these guys have that. Their pressure is full of holes and very easy to punish. And finally, good neutral, which is maybe the hardest one to explain because it's very character specific. Some characters have good neutral because they have awesome buttons. They will win pretty much any scramble either on the ground or the air. Characters like Mirio or Bakugan are also extremely fast or have anti-zoning quirks, so they can get in and start combos or pressure pretty easily. And then you have other characters who are the zoners, and zoning can be really strong in this game. None of these characters in the D tier have any way to deal with zoning. Their damage is average and their buttons aren't amazing for winning scrambles, and that's why they sit at the bottom. Moving up to the C tiers, here they are. Dankey is the strongest C tier and Night Eye barely escaped the D tier. Night Eye does have slightly better movement than all of those D tiers, but his damage and quirk aren't going to allow him to climb any higher. I mean, his whole gimmick is counterattacks, and the counter activates so late that you pretty much have to guess whether an opponent will attack you or not. The inclusion of a dodge really nerfed Tokoyami. You can now sidestep out of a lot of his pressure, which leaves him completely open because if Dark Shadow is out, he can't even block. Uraraka is a great opportunity to point out one of my weaknesses in this tier list. I don't know Uraraka super well, so I mostly trusted what my advisors told me. That said, every time I fight an Uraraka, it feels like she does have some tools and actual good damage, but too many holes that I can actually exploit. Dabi got so nerfed from the first game, you have to play him completely different now, and the new playstyle isn't that strong. Dabi is really good at keeping opponents away from him because of his traps, but he pretty much loses every zoning battle there is because his projectile only works at a certain distance, and it's a distance where you're not always safe trying to zone. He's got his tools, but they took most of them away. And Dankey is kind of similar to Dabi in some ways. He's also got the traps, he can play around with that and keep opponents away, but he's gonna lose on a lot of zoning battles. His combos look cool, but you look at the numbers and the damage is just average. His electric dome now doesn't hit the opponent at the start, so it's very punishable, and he's got that fried downside that he needs to deal with. Moving on to B tier, this tier as well as the A tier, I just can't talk about every character because this is where most of the characters are. So I'm gonna have to skip some explanations, but hopefully as I explain some characters, you'll understand why the others are here. B is the balanced tier. These are all characters that have good qualities, but also have a couple of big flaws. They sort of feel like incomplete characters, because they either have big damage but lack neutral, or have great neutral but their buttons are bad. You get the idea. In the middle of this tier, we have All Might and All For One, both characters that perhaps represent the pinnacle of balance in this game. They both have decent zoning or counter zoning options. All Might, for instance, can go through projectiles in this game, which allows him to close the distance, and All For One has projectiles, a long-range quirk, and a teleport to counter zoning. Both have good damage, but their buttons aren't the best for scrambles, and their pressure is really bad. So that, along with their zoning only being decent, puts them right in the middle of B tier. Below these characters, everyone either has worse buttons, damage, or pressure. Stain, for instance, is a well-balanced character with big damage, but everything else is below average. Same for Rappa, insane damage machine, great buttons for scrambles, but can't deal with zoning at all. Todoroki also feels like a very complete character, but his combos meteor super fast, meaning he doesn't get a lot of damage, and his jab is really bad too. Overhaul V2 seems to be a problem for a lot of people because of how good of a zoner he is, but he's all the way down here at B tier because every single ability he throws out has a huge recovery, which means that if you use your block button and close in the distance slowly, you can actually get in his face and kill the guy. He's also super slow, he's not like he can run away, and that's pretty much with any character, not counting characters who actually have counter zoning abilities. And then above All Might and All For One, we have characters that are slightly more powerful than the perfect balance. Inasa, who has great, albeit very situational zoning, along with an incredible yellow air attack and great damage. Toga, who also has exceptional zoning but a lot of gaps in her pressure. A Majiki, who is just as balanced as everyone else in this tier, but then has a hard knockdown in every combo and a broken red attack. Nejire is a pressure queen, but her combos are way too long, so they end up being broken by assists most of the time. And Jiro, who has pretty much everything average, but one of her quirks builds so much meter that she ends up dealing more damage than usual. And yes, I did not mention Gangorka, because once again, I don't know him too well. We now move on to the A tier. Just like the B tier, these are really strong and balanced characters, except they don't have that many flaws. Maybe one or two at most, and at the same time, they excel at either neutral, pressure, or damage. For instance, Seiji has incredible neutral with his projectiles. He can load them up and approach you while firing them. And then he has amazing pressure, which makes his damage the one thing he lacks. It's not bad, it's just average. But that's his one flaw, since everything else is amazing. And that's what makes him an A tier character. Shoot style has that amazing kick priority, which is so fast and beats so many other options, a great air yellow, a hard knockdown, but he has no way to deal with zoning other than trying to run around it. 100% Deku is down here at the bottom of the A tier, which might surprise some of you. Let's just say he seemed a lot stronger at launch than he actually is. He's still strong, A tiers are all strong characters, but he's not the broken mess that he seemed to be. He's got damage, he's got zoning, the charged projectile hitbox is ridiculous, but then his pressure is actually full of holes. His yellow attack, for instance, has a huge gap between the spin and the punch, and if he cancels into any of his quirks, you can actually hit him back. Even dash cancels won't get him out of getting hit by buttons, so if you block his yellow attack, you will most likely punish him. Kami is sort of average, except her red attack is really good, gives her incredible pressure and mix-up, but then she's got something that most characters in this game don't. She's got really, really good Oki. For those who don't play fighting games that often, Oki is the word used for wake-up pressure. After you knock down the opponent, how do you put them back in a combo when they get up? Or how do you make them block? The most famous example we have in this game is before-style Shigaraki, putting that huge puddle of rot as you get up, forcing you to jump out or block. Along with the damage he deals, that's exactly why he's also an A tier character. New Shigaraki has great counter zoning with his tracking projectile. I wouldn't say it's a good zoning tool on its own, since all you need to do to avoid it is jump, but he does have extremely good damage. He's a two-touch character basically. He touches you twice and you're dead. That said, his jabs lose against most of the jabs in the game, so that's his big weakness. I'm gonna skip Mina. She seems to have very safe pressure and incredible normals, but personally I don't know her too well. Overhaul is an absolute beast, good damage, one of the best zoners in the entire game. He really doesn't have any huge weaknesses, it's just very good all around, but not broken like the top tiers. Twice has incredible normals, his mobility is also great, allowing him to circumvent zoning or make his pressure safe. He can get a lot of damage with his clones, though it does take some work in the lab. I'd say his biggest flaw is air-to-air battles, because while his Spider-Man tactics may look safe, if you don't get hit by the tape, you can actually hit him for free. Besides, he's solid, but not broken like our top tiers. Aizawa's only flaw is his matchup against zoners. He has no zoning and no way to get around it, unless it disables the opponent's quirk, but for that, he has to get in first. Really good pressure, really good damage, and his quirk deletion is a great gimmick. Momo might surprise some of you, as she doesn't seem super strong at first, but this is also a two-hit character. Damage-wise, she's on the same level as the new Shigaraki, but then then on top of that, she's got great Oki, just like Kami. She forces you to block by throwing the dolls with the right timing, and you're immediately being pressured. On top of that, the pipe she throws is one of the best projectiles in the game, which allows her to play the game from any distance. Incredibly solid all-around character. Mineta has a big weakness, which are his normals. He loses in a lot of jabbing contests, and if it wasn't for that, he'd be a top tier character. He's got incredible damage, and a smart Mineta player will end their combos with the opponent full of grapes, which means Mineta touches you once, and you're dead if you don't use assists to break combos. But even if you do, he's got that amazing yellow attack, allowing him to play good neutral with pretty much anyone. Shame about those short limbs, he was really close to being a top tier. Base Deku is just a very complete character with very few flaws. He can zone, he can play up close, he can pressure, he can deal damage, but none of those things are extraordinary, they're all just very good, which makes him an all-around strong character. And finally, Ida. I had Ida as an S tier before everyone disagreed with me. Once Ida gets in and you start blocking, you're gonna get opened up. He's got so many block string options with or without meter, you really have to rely on luck to get out of Ida pressure. And if he opens you up, he's also got solid damage. His speed allows him to circumvent most zoning, giving him good neutral as well, but I guess he does have some gaps in his block strings that can be exploited. Ida can bait your buttons or punish attempts, but he has to make the read. It's not airtight, so in the end, he ends up falling just short of a top tier, but still, strongest A tier character. That means he's actually the 5th strongest character in My Hero 1 Justice 2, in my opinion. And here we go, folks, the top tier characters. You already know who they are, but what is their order? We have 4 characters remaining, and all of them are super broken. And number 4, we have Bakugo. His incredible speed and projectiles allow him to play in and out neutral like no one else. Once he makes you block, his block string is super safe. You can't punish any of it. You can't sidestep, you can't armor through it. His red attack is so fast and barely has any recovery, making it very hard to react to and nearly impossible to punish, and he's got damage for days. That said, he's the hardest character to play of all the top tiers, meaning you're gonna have to put in some work to bring out the best that this character has. And number 3, we've got Endeavour. The top tier from the first My Hero is still extremely strong in the second game. I cannot believe they did not nerf this guy. He's got some of the best zoning in the game, plus he gets in for free with his yellow attack, which is extremely hard to punish, since you never know if he's gonna throw a quirk afterwards, and if you block the quirk, you can't punish him. He's at a safe distance. And even if you try, you might still get hit by a super in the face. So just like Bakugo, he can play that in and out neutral with the added bonus of being a better zoner. And our number 1 and 2 characters at this point are very interchangeable. I'm making Mirio the number 2 character and Gran Torino the number 1. Now, the reason why Mirio is tied for first or comes close to Gran Torino is because of that 24k combo, which is for sure going to get fixed in the next patch. Like, that has to be the top of their priority list. But even without it, he's still a very solid character. The best anti-zoner in the game thanks to his permeation, very good jabs, insane tracking on his red move, and great recovery on all of his attacks, making his pressure super safe. And then Gran Torino feels like he kills you every time he touches you because of his insane damage. Insane air buttons, he wins against pretty much everyone else in the air, and his charged quirk is way too safe for how insane that move is. It travels a great distance, it's a yellow attack, and you can combo off of it if it hits to get full damage. So it has no right being this safe. This thing is even plus on block. The opponent can't even mash if they block it because they'll get hit by your own jab. On top of it all, his super activates on the 3rd frame of animation, making him pretty much invulnerable to any type of pressure that has a gap. The only character who can keep Gran Torino blocking is probably Bakugo. Everyone else that tries to pressure Gran Torino with 1 bar of meter is ready to take this super in the face. Plus, the super has no scaling at all, not at the start nor at the end of the combo. So you won't just take the super's damage, you'll be taking the full Gran Torino damage. And that's the tier list. I definitely want to thank everyone who contributed, but at the end of the day, this is also my tier list. Most of this list is my opinion, and if you disagree, that's totally fine with me. If you got angry about some of my picks, you can always swipe left. Low tier characters don't necessarily mean they're garbage. I'm not calling you garbage because your character is a low tier. If anything, if you're good with that character and you can get some wins, that just proves how good of a player you are. And no characters are absolute garbage or unplayable. Some of them you just have to put in a lot more effort than you would have if you picked an actual good character, because they don't have as many tools or their tools aren't as good as the top tiers. And I think I'm also done playing random characters here on the channel for now. I will be back with the Hawks DLC, and if the patch changes this tier list a lot. We'll make sure to check it out and update the list as well. Let me know in the comments where your main character ended up. Are they higher than you expected? Are they lower than you expected? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku and I'll see you next time. Bye.